What is up, everybody? Happy Sunday fun day. It is an unsettled but hot and humid Sunday morning here in central New York, live from Oneida Lake. The last 2 days I found a decent group of fish. They're over in the corner of the triangle. The wind's been pushing them around kind of across this more open western end flat. You know, you have the west end is like a snowman if you look at it from the east. A big fat belly, which is, you know, the width of the islands north and south. That's the big fat belly. And then you have the 133 drift all the way to the red buoy in front of the beach. And that's smaller, that's the head. This area holds a lot of fish, and you could go all season and say I fished the west end and not fish next to where somebody else says I fished the west end. The farther you go, the bigger she gets as far as the lake goes. It gets a little wider, it gets a little longer. There's multiple sections out there. You know, the next section in the middle is where there's so much beautiful structure. It's just main lake reef structures that come all the way up to the surface. Out in deep water, the subtle, more gradual 2 and 3 foot piles, all part of how the glacier scraped the topsoil off the bedrock bottom. All the way out to Shackleton, the maze that is Shackleton. You have Dakin, you have Pancake, you have Long Island. There is just an abundance. That middle section, if you want to be technical, if you want to be fishing fish that are up on breaks, usually on the windward side, it's usually pretty tight drifts and close quarters to structure. It's real precision fishing. That's if you're doing it drifting wise. With a trolling motor, it's certainly much easier nowadays to hold yourself and work yourself along these things. And you're going until you find the school, you're using your electronics. And then you get to the far end, the far eastern end for me. If you live on that end, that's your end. You know, I grew up fishing a lot of that from, on the north shore be like Bernards Bay, the south shore it's Bridgeport, from that way east, all the way to the beach. For years and years and years I fished 117 religiously. In the old days I launched out of Godfrey Point when I lived up in Parrish, and that was my end, you know. Bucktail and a worm, black and purple. I used to use a lot of purple and red, all black, all purple, and all brown, and brown and purple. That was my jig box. That was all I ever brought, and 4 or 5 dozen worms in case you really got into them. Break them in half, thread them, chuck them, and just in those days I used to bucktail with a 9-foot noodle rod that I used as part of my guide business on the Salmon River for clients. And it worked beautiful, and it would lope that jig along, and when you'd feel them on the way up, that rod was long enough and still had enough power for a walleye to rear all the way back on it. And we used to call it whipping them, because multiple friends of mine from up there did that, and it was fun. You know, it's super light tackle. You know, it's a noodle rod. And you'd lift up and you'd start to feel them about mid lift, and it was a riot. Yeah, I don't know really why I broke down the lake this morning. I'm just out here looking around, and now this morning it's dead calm, dead flat calm, not a breath of air. The west wind's coming. but I'm still going over this same area where we left them yesterday biting. As soon as I start seeing them, and I've got. All right, so I'll show you. Let's see. So this is what I'm looking at my helm. So there's a 7-inch screen, and that it could do anything, but I have that as just my map. And then up here, the two that I normally do, once I'm drifting, I go into this screen. This is my number 1. So this is traditional sonar, 4-color, and this is full water column on top. Now this down here is 2D downscope, and I have it zoomed into the bottom 5 feet only. I'm only looking at the bottom 5 feet because I know I'm jigging today, and so I want to only see what's in the bottom 5. I don't care what's above that. This will show me if it's a lot, and then I can adjust my zoom. But this is once I've found them and I'm fishing, then this is the screen I'm doing because I'm drifting. So that's a fish right there on bottom, and that verifies it. A couple of them. Oh yeah. So okay. Well, there you go. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right there. I'm just gonna drop a mark in right there. That's a nice little pot of them. Now that's something right there. I could have thrown it in neutral, quick reversed it. If I had a setup like a slip bobber setup, which I'm going to fish today, I think, just for doing that. And now there's a bunch more. They're just off the edge of my scanner. Could be any number of things. Perch. We had perch and good perch and big sunnies in here yesterday, mixed in with the walleyes. Look at, so there's fish right here. I think I'm going to start here. All right. Good talk. Good talk, Russ. Well, finally just broke the ice. Wind switched. Look at the size of this giant. What a beauty. He just, that is as trophy a sunfish as you could get anywhere. He was heavy shoulders, big forehead. Oh, and he's whacking a 1/2-ounce blade bait in 19 foot of water, right out in the wide open. It's crazy. These fish are still here, but I haven't. That's the first bite. I've been here. It's my second drift. I've been here an hour, so I'm gonna keep drifting over them. There's a pile of them here, so we'll get them to go here. Homie, doing his job already. What is up, everybody? We're gonna make this quick. The wind is howling out of the west. Howling. Not quite as hard as it blew yesterday out of the east, but it is really, really blowing. I got out there this morning. It was glass. There wasn't a breath of air. Hot, humid, sticky. This front blew in. The fan turned on, and she's howling now. I assume the east end by this point is probably unfishable. Been quite a weekend. I mean, it has howled from the east yesterday and now from the west. So the fishing was just like it was yesterday, with the exception of those 3 keepers yesterday. I had, I don't know, 15 walleyes. Boy, almost a dozen of those giant sunfish in 3 different locations, and a bunch of perch, a couple of which were good ones. Was very excited, very, very excited. No keepers today, none whatsoever. Like I say, I fished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different spots, structure, flats, shallow as much as, I got as shallow as 12 to 14. I got as deep as 25. Looking on the windward side of stuff after I started where I left off yesterday. They were still there. I caught a fish on my first cast and my third cast, both shorts, 12 inches. Bill and I caught a lot of those yesterday, a lot of them. But then I moved a significant distance. I mean, well over a mile. Obviously, different school of fish. The next spot was along the edge of a main lake reef where it kind of plateaus. It was 20 feet, and first cast again, and then sporadically all the way down that line. It was short one right after another, mixed in with a couple of those big sunfish. And those sunnies today were just torquing the rod, just throttling it. I was fishing blade baits and I was fishing shiver minnows, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Homie did okay. I didn't do anything on that Demiki. Yeah, I did a couple shorts on that Demiki blade that I ended up with yesterday, that chartreuse and pearl. So a couple different things. Had that red and orange shiver minnow going again. Blue, silver, orange belly shiver minnow went a couple times. So, it's. I don't think it really mattered. I just couldn't seem to find any big ones. So, or the big ones didn't want to bite today. I don't know. But the rods were moving. It was a lot of fun, and I'm back in the river already. So, thank you, everybody. Have a great Sunday, fun day. Keep your tip on.